Welcome back to another Gentleman's Briefly. This is the episodes where we talk our short topics, topics that we don't normally talk about on the normal podcast feed. Um, yeah, that's it. Be sure and check out our other episodes. Yeah, we're just gonna hop right into it. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. I'm tripping. I've only been doing this a little over a year now. My name is Jordan. Of course, if you listen to regular podcast feed, then you know who I am. But today I have a special guest with me, and his name is Josh. Josh, how are you doing?
Great, great. Yeah, long time listener, first time caller.
So I've known Josh, what, 5 years now? We work together, and we have some really good conversations. And so I was like, hey, why don't we just record some of our conversations? So today's topic, we both found out that we are into fantasy. And so I kind of want to talk about the fantasy genre in general. But before we do that, let's get to know Josh. Josh, so let me ask you, what are some of your hobbies? What do you like to do?
I'm a little all over the place. I wanna do everything, but yeah, I like writing code. I love building computers. Um, Woodworking. Trying to get into 3D printing. Um,
That's one of the
I,
many conversations
I,
we definitely had before.
yeah, I've got a toe in the water. Like I have a 3D printer. Just I need to put in the time to get good at it. Love gaming. Also love like gardening. So
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely like a little all over the
I'll
place then, huh?
I will never be bored.
I mean, that's a good thing. Never being bored, having a hobby is always a great thing in my opinion. All right, so being that you are a nerd, what are some of the franchises that you like? What's your fandom? Like what fandoms are you into?
Probably Star Wars is my favorite of my fandoms. I love everything Star Wars. Um, it just kind of fanboy. Like I'm gonna love it. Like no matter how bad it is, I'm still gonna at least like it. And Marvel, particularly Marvel comics. I started reading the comics back in early '90s.
Yeah.
Um, and love the MCU, but pretty much anything Marvel, I'm always into.
Yeah, I would say, and I would definitely tell people like that's one of the conversations that we always have, especially like when a new project comes out from Marvel. We talk about it. More recently, it hasn't been the best of things.
It's it's
It's
been it's been rough lately. I mean, you
yeah,
can't. I mean, you can't. I mean, I don't know. It can't be just AAA all everything all the time.
yeah.
I guess it'd be nice, but
I feel like we
um,
got spoiled. We got spoiled like having like what 10 years of like just kind of greatness, like the rise of
yeah,
Marvel, and now I feel like I don't want to say we're on the back end of it, but we are not at the highest point anymore. So, I mean, they still have a chance to kind of course correct and make things different, though.
yeah. I think X-Men could do it.
Oh man, I really
Uh,
hope so. I mean, I tell people all the time, like they have to get the X-Men right. They have to.
yeah, they really do. If they get X-Men right, then I think we get another. I think we could have another run like like the Iron Man to Infinity
Yeah.
range.
Oh, that'd be so amazing. Like, yeah, like the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. I feel like I hope they get it right, but I feel like the X-Men universe is way larger than the
Hmm.
Fantastic Four universe, and I feel like I mean I also say like I feel like the X-Men almost are like separate from Marvel because I mean people can be X-Men fans and they could not like Marvel at all. Like I feel like that's how big the X-Men is. And I feel like if they get that right, they'll be good.
Yeah, and like I don't know this, but I don't think there's probably as hardcore of a Fantastic Four fan base as there is an
No,
X-Men.
you're
Like
right.
like everybody knows the X-Men are.
Right.
So yeah, you get that one right, then I think they're golden. And Fantastic Four's got some great storylines too, and some really cool stuff. Um, Rip Kang, maybe, but
Oh man, I know. Trying to see what's going on with that.
uh,
That's unfortunate for him.
that
Biggest fumble of a bag. We'll see what happens. I'll just leave it at
yeah. I hope. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's but so
that.
yeah, they could do some cool stuff still with Fantastic Four. Like Galactus is a cool character if they can work that in.
Which I thought like when they announced like after the whole Infinity Saga stuff, like I thought, okay, now this is the time to build towards Galactus. But I mean, I guess they chose to go the Kang route, which I guess either route is fine. But
Yeah,
Galactus, I feel like, is like the ultimate Thanos level threat. I guess Kang is too. but I'd probably rather see Galactus and Kang.
Yeah, I really like the mythology in Marvel, and kind of like the higher powers and
Hmm.
Galactus and Order and Chaos and Infinity and Eternity and everybody
Yeah,
like
how all those guys work out.
yeah, it's I don't know how you can possibly work that into like films or anything, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah, and we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens like these next years. I feel like it's one thing too. Like we have to be patient. Like we it was 10 years before we got to see like the full story of that
Yeah.
first three phases, and now we just have to be patient. But it's kind of rough. So I get it. One last question before we get started. Are there any fandoms you wish you can get more involved in? Like, so example for me, I was light work on Transformers, and so more recently, like I've been, I mean, I've told you before, like I'm starting to get more and more into Transformers. So that was one of the things like I wanted to get into. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I do. So one that's I still forever keep meaning to get into Doctor Who.
Oh,
Um,
people have been telling me
like
about that too.
I know next to nothing about Doctor Who. I'm intimidated by the size of the catalog.
Yeah, and like there's so many seasons and the different doctors. I'm like, if I'm going, people tell me to start where David Tennant starts, but I'm like, if I'm going to start it, I have to start at the beginning.
Yeah, like I want to like it seems like something I'd be super into, and like I want to be like into all of it, but that's a lot. That's just so much. So that's definitely one for me. Dungeons and Dragons is another like uh it's a cool universe like gaming system
Yeah.
like this whole thing that I'm just on like the outskirts of that I've just never taken the time to
Let
really
me
dive into.
let me ask you because like when I was growing up, people if I told someone that was interested in being D&D, like I would get beat down, shunned forever. Was it
It
like that for you as well?
Yeah, no, it was not cool. And I grew up in a very conservative household. So
Hmm.
Dungeons and Dragons. So back in my day, I hate to say that. Jeremiah's cringing somewhere. But like there was like the whole like demonic scare, like Dungeons and Dragons was convincing kids to, worship the devil and commit
Like we
suicide
seen
and
on
all kinds.
Stranger Things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like that was all like real and so Dungeons and Dragons was out back then. Like there was absolutely no chance I could do that. But Marvel had a very similar tabletop role playing game system that me and my friends
Hmm.
got into. It was Dungeons and Dragons, but it was Marvel,
Yeah, they
Marvel
reskinned it.
characters. Yeah.
It's funny you say that. I actually think they just came back out with that. Like I was in Target recently, and I swear I just seen like a Marvel role playing game. Like I think they came back out with it.
Yeah, when we moved just a few months ago, I've still got my rule books and like the Book of Ultimate Powers and uh yeah, that was I've got like character sheets and
Yeah, people are going nuts right now. So one time, me and a buddy, I was going to start, and this was like right maybe a year into the pandemic. We were going to start playing. I was going to join one of his campaigns. We were going to do it online. I created a character and everything, and came up with a backstory, and then it just all fell apart. So like I've never actually had to play Dungeons and Dragons. It would be something like I would be interested in trying out. Like I don't know if I'm like creative enough to like come up with different scenarios how to get out of a certain situation, but like it'd be something I would love to try out.
yeah, I couldn't say it's intimidating for me there as well. Like I'm so used to like having like rules and like this is a list of things you can do, and these are the
Yeah,
exact times you can do it. And it feels like so like yeah, it's an open world and like try anything. Yeah,
yeah,
it's kind of an intimidating game type to jump into.
yeah. Well, that was kind of a good segue. Today's, I mean, topic we're going to talk about the genre of fantasy, and I probably should have looked up technically what the genre of fantasy means. Um, but I have a feeling that some of my choices might stretch that for sure. So we're going to talk about our favorite fantasy books, our favorite fantasy movie, and our favorite fantasy show. So since this is a short episode, we'll just list off three each, and we'll go back and forth. And so yeah, I'll start with mine. You can pick any order you want to talk about yours in. Um, but for me, I want to talk about one of my favorite books. And for me, audiobooks are like the way I choose to go. I know a lot of people say that audiobooks aren't reading. Um, in my opinion, I am reading the book if I'm listening to it. But one of the things I really enjoy is historic materials. Um,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed. So it got. I watched the TV show, and me and my wife, we watched it, and I enjoyed it so like I enjoyed it a lot that it made me read the book, and I feel like that doesn't happen a lot for me. So I dove deep deep into it. Read the spinoffs like the Lyra's Oxford, which is the story of like Lyra in just in Oxford, like just chilling and basically living there. Yeah, I started getting into like all the other like spinoff series as well. And if you don't know, this book is about a young girl who basically discovers um I don't know, like a whole different world than what she was used to. And she goes kind of adventure with her friend, and she has her demon with her, which is Padaline, which is kind of like their spirit or their soul or their I don't yeah, it has to be like their soul, and basically on the outside of them. And they kind of go on adventures, and they discover that her father is her uncle that was her father. That's her uncle. So it sounds weird. She was told it was her uncle her whole life, and she finds out it's her father, and he's kind of like the big bad guy at the end. And it's to me, it's just a really great story, and I really enjoy it. So it's three main books, and then a couple spinoffs. But yeah, have you ever heard of it?
I do, yeah, no, I love them. So I when I heard the show was coming out, I read the books, and one of the few cases where like it seemed to me like a show really stuck to the story like really closely and still pulled it off really well. Like,
Yeah,
I didn't know there were spin-off books, so I didn't check those out, but I really enjoyed those books.
yeah, and I also went back and watched. So the show came out, in, I think like what 2019, 2020, something like that. But they also had a movie, the Golden Compass. I actually went back and watched the Golden Compass, and yeah, they were skipping all around in the Golden Compass, but the show on HBO really stuck to it, which I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. So yeah, what's your first one? Where are you starting at?
Yeah, so my favorite book that or series, I guess, and yeah, I kind of had a hard time pinning down fantasy versus like sci-fi, but I think mine are a little bit of both maybe. But Dune, I think, is my favorite sci-fi
Yeah,
fantasy series of like all time.
yeah,
Um,
that's had a lot behind it recently.
yeah, it's had several good movies. And but book-wise, it's there's a lot. I think there's six books I think in the main series, and then like a couple of prequel series, and it's there's a lot of material there. But Dune itself, like the first book is about Paul Atreides and uh, basically growing up on an alien world that's kind of like a weird future meets medieval setting, where
Hmm.
technology is forbidden to some degree. Like you're not allowed to make machines that can think like a human. So they're very backwards in like medieval, like feudal setting, but also starships and lasers and shields and all kinds of stuff. So it's a cool setting with a cool story that kind of tells the rise of Paul Atreides and fall of other families, and this very cool, just epic saga.
Yeah, I'll say that when the movie came out in 2021, I was going to watch it, but then I got intimidated by the watch time, which is crazy because I watch all kind of movies that are like super long. But I didn't end up checking this one out, which I do regret. I probably should go back and watch it. But yeah, a lot of people tell me like Dune is where it's at.
Yeah, and the movie was it was good. And again, very of all the attempts at it, definitely truest to the book. It is long. It was like I don't know, it was a beautiful movie, just filmed. That's one of the ones that I would definitely like uh want to see on like on a big screen, which I don't do often anymore, but that was definitely
Yeah.
one to see on the big screen. But the books are fantastic. The at least the main series kind of gets a little bit dry, but the prequel series are really good.
What draws you into fantasy? Like for me, like if you can get me connecting to the world building, that's where you can get me out of fantasy. Like I love the world building, the additional stories, the character development. Like I like all of that about fantasy. What about you?
I think that's really it for me too. I like, Yeah, the world building and being drawn into a universe with its own mythology and like knowing that there's always more, like there's always something more behind it and
Yeah,
um kind of Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones are kind of my
yeah.
runner-ups too, and like King's Dark Tower series.
That's
Like,
another one that I should check out. I hear about the Dark Tower all the time.
yeah, it's really good and lots of and I love tie-ins with like, books. They're telling their own stories, but also kind of, I guess not like crossovers, but kind of tie it back into like a main theme for this like an overarching series.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like high fantasy but uh, yeah.
See, that's so when I was coming up with my list and I was telling people about this, it was like, well, what do you like? Do you like high fantasy? And I was like, well, I didn't realize there was like subgenres of fantasy. So that's what I was like, I have one thing on my list that may be fantasy, it may not be fantasy. So I'm curious whenever I talk about it, I'm curious to see what you end up thinking about it. But yeah, I didn't realize there were all different types of fantasy.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I guess there's so much now they've started, you know, category, yeah, boxing things into even, more specific
Yeah.
genres.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk about my TV show. And it's funny because this one is one that I got kind of made fun of when I was telling to someone when I talked to someone about my list, they kind of made fun of me. But it's cool. She know who she is. Once Upon a Time. So this was the show that was on ABC and it was kind of going through all the Disney characters. Do you know the show? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking. I never saw it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like this show came out at a time like where me and my wife just had like a lot of time. And so we were just watching this show that was on TV and it was really good. I mean, it's a story about basically a boy and his mom gets trapped into a city and they find out they can't escape. And so they keep coming in contact with kind of all these storybook characters. I say Disney characters because I was thinking of Disney movie, but they're all storybook characters.
Hmm.
So they have Snow White, they have Rumpelstiltskin, they have I almost said Jon Snow, but Prince Charming. So they have like all these different like storybook characters, and there's an overarching story. I think it's like 7 or 8 seasons, but like there's a story going on. But for some reason this show was like I really enjoyed the show a lot, and they're trying to figure out like how come and these characters don't know who they are. So like there's one side of it when they're in our world, I'll say our world, the real world. Snow White is basically like she's just a regular librarian. No, she wasn't a librarian. She was just like a regular woman, and she was just married to Prince Charming. They don't know that they're storybook characters, and then later on, like in other seasons, they actually cross over and go into like their storybook world where they end up becoming like who they are. And so like
Okay.
for the overall part, like Rumpelstiltskin is the bad guy, but like in the real world, he looks like a normal guy. He basically like runs like a thrift store almost, but he has like everything at his disposal, and he's always like going like behind the back of the town and like figuring everything out. And they end up and so like eventually they end up like figuring out like okay, there's a spell cast on this town, and so now these some of these characters are trying to escape. They want to go back to their storybook life, or they want to keep in the same world. So like Maleficent is there. They end up introducing like the Frozen characters like later on, like down, and those last 2 seasons, in my opinion, wasn't that good. But like the first like 5 seasons were amazing. Like especially Maleficent, the her character in the show was like amazing. Like I loved her so much, and yeah, this show was really good to me. They even had John, was it Captain Hook? Yeah, Captain Hook. He was good. I really liked him. And so, yeah, the show, in my opinion, it was really good. It might be fantasy. I think it is fantasy. It's
That's
considered fantasy
yes,
because they, like I said, they
that's fantasy.
travel. Okay, yeah, because they travel into the other world. The storybook world is what they call it. Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed Once Upon a Time. It's a little cheesy, I will say. It was on ABC. It is a daytime show. It was a little cheesy, but I still enjoy all the cheesiness of it.
That's cool. Yeah, that's not what I would have expected from that one.
Yeah, it was a fun time. I don't know. Like I was really enjoying it. It came out in 2011, but we didn't start watching it until like 2015.
Oh wow. Okay.
So yeah, that's my pick.
Um, let's see. Show wise, what one? Okay, one. This wouldn't be my main pick, but one that just occurred to me since Rip Kang. Lovecraft Country.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
so good. Um,
Yeah. Yes.
I, I I was very disappointed that wasn't renewed. That was
I don't understand a show that wins awards like it did, and then they
yeah,
go and cancel it. Like it made no sense to me.
no, and and man, that was just so good.
And I
Um,
didn't even realize like it was based off a book for like a long time. Like I didn't even know that. So like now I probably should go and try to read the book. Because I really enjoyed the show.
yeah, no, I haven't read the book. I need to do that too. And the H.P. Lovecraft, like his whole universe of so much cool stuff to pull from. Like if that had been pulled in, like so much potential I thought for that show. But um, no, so I think I feel like a lot of what I watch is fantasy, sci-fi. Like Mandalorian, again, so good. Game of Thrones was so good. Um,
Yeah.
I think the one I picked though, Wheel of Time. Um,
Hmm.
I think mainly because I want it to be good. I think the potential's there, and I think it's if they do it right, it's gonna be big. Uh, but it's another kind of world building type of show that's based on a book with like there's 13 books in the series, tons of characters and tons of story, and I think got off to a really good start. I think just one season so far.
Oh, I didn't know. So this is something current.
Yeah.
What service is this on?
Uh, Amazon, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I never heard this either. Oh
Um,
yeah, there's a ton of books, huh?
yeah, I think there's 13 of the of main books, and
Holy crap.
it's
On Google it says number of characters 2,787.
it's yeah. Well, whenever it's Game of Thrones, like I really wished I had had a list of like keep track of all the characters, and even more so with Wheel of Time, it makes Game of Thrones look like small time character count wise.
Hmm.
Uh,
I guess I'll have to check this show out.
but
Didn't even realize this thing. What you gonna say?
no, yeah, it was it's pretty good. I think it's got potential to be great. If it can if they'll keep it
Now,
around.
I will say, yeah, Amazon, I feel like doesn't always have the best shows in my opinion. Like if you told me this was on HBO, like I feel like it would get a lot of seasons. I don't
Yeah,
know too many shows out here getting a lot of stuff on Amazon.
yeah, and it's I mean it's not a mainstream franchise, you know. Not a lot of
Yeah,
people have heard of Wheel of Time. Kind of, I wouldn't say classic. I think the series wrapped up in like 2011, like the books.
yeah,
So it's modern, just not out there.
yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people who enjoy the fantasy. So the fact that you just named that, I'm sure someone out there is like, oh, I love that too. Yeah. Which I feel like that's
It's
the good thing about kind of the fantasy genre. Like a lot of people like that genre a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Super random. How do you feel about horror genre? Do you like horror movies and
uh,
shows and books and stuff?
I don't I I'm not against them. I've never been really drawn to horrors particularly.
Yeah.
And I don't really know why. I just never been my thing. I like a good suspenseful horror.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not like into like slasher type movies. I kind of want. I hear like like the Saw series has like a nice story flow, but like
Saw lost me at like movie five. For me horror, like I don't mind slashers. Like I don't mind it. I'm not big into like the supernatural horror shows and movies and stuff like that. But slashers, I'm fine with slashers. And yeah, Saw got a little crazy there for a while. All right. So my last one, and this might be a little controversial. When I was trying to see what genre this movie is in, it's it's kind of listed all over the place a little bit. It's also kind of listed as a fantasy. It's also listed as like an adventure drama. Um, but when this movie came out, I did not realize how much I was going to like it. Because the trailer wasn't anything special to me. But once I watched the movie, it like connected with me, and I've watched this movie 5 or 6 times. I've read the book once. I really got all behind this. And the movie is Life of Pi.
really,
Um,
I haven't seen that.
really,
Yeah, it's
oh man, oh man, and I don't. So the book says it's a fantasy, but then the movie says it's an adventure drama. So that's why I don't know what it truly is. I mean, of course, the movie is based off of the book, but yeah. So the movie it follows this character. His name is Pi. I think it's Pycelius is his real name. Pyson is one of those. But basically, he's a boy. He gets trapped on a boat with a lion, a monkey. Was it a lion, a monkey, a zebra, and I feel like there was one more animal. But basically, he's lost at sea, and the animals kind of slowly start dying off. The tiger kills the animals, of course, and so they are just lost at sea, just floating at sea. So they're going through storms. They're going through hard rains. They're almost starving. They have to jump and get food out the water, basically. And as they're kind of floating here, the boy is afraid of the tiger the whole time. Eventually, he comes to a point where he trains the tiger somehow, and the tiger doesn't actually eat him because the tigers also realize that this person or this being is also trying to protect me and keep me alive. So like they're catching fish and he's feeding each other. But the biggest twist, what really brought me into this movie was, so like the movie starts out, the guy is an adult now. He's telling the story to the reporters, okay? So at the end of it, he tells the reporters, he's like, "What do you think of my story? Do you believe me that it really happened, or do you think I just made everything up?" So we don't even actually know if all of any of this actually happened to him. So like in the fantasy part, I guess comes of it because like we don't know if it's in his imagination. Like, was
Hmm.
he really stuck there with the tiger the whole entire time? That's like unbelievable to be stuck on this small boat with a tiger and you didn't die. Or did you make this whole thing up and you were really just hallucinating the whole time? Because at the end of the movie, the tiger actually escapes. They end up getting on land, and the tiger runs off into the jungle, takes a look back at him, and he's crying because like at this point, Richard Parker, which is the tiger's name, he named it, ends up becoming like his best friend. But we don't know if he's like truly hallucinating or that this really happened. And I don't know, man. Something about the movie, just like it really connected with me, and it was a beautiful movie too. Like it was very beautiful, and it's crazy just to mention that the movie is beautiful because like they're in water the whole time,
Hmm.
but the visuals is like amazing. So yeah, it was definitely when it came out. I did not think I was going to like it, but I ended up loving it.
Yeah, that's one I might have to check out. Like it's nothing, so nothing about it, like marketing wise or anything else, like really just struck with me. Like it
Yeah,
it never jumped out with me like this is a movie I need to see.
yeah, same. And that's why I'm conflicted. And I hope once this episode comes out, like maybe people will let me know that this is a fantasy. It was not a fantasy, but the fantasy aspect of it is this all imaginary? Did this really happen to him, or is he hallucinating? So yeah,
All right,
that's my pick. I do recommend people to see this movie though. I really enjoy this movie a lot.
let's see. I guess movie wise for me, really hard pick. And the one that the main one that comes to mind, probably because of recent like I don't know things we've come across with this universe. Lord of the Rings, Two Towers was
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it's so good. I love that movie. Uh, but a little bit maybe like deeper cuts though. Highlander
Well,
was it?
hang on, hang on,
Oh,
hang on. I want to go back to this Lord of the Ring things because
oh, okay, okay.
I think I've already told you like I thought Lord of the Rings series was overrated. I used to say that The Hobbit was better and Return of the King wasn't the best movie to me. And so I seen those movies when they first came out as a kid. Wasn't really into them. No, now watching as an adult, watching the extended version, and I'm on Two Towers now. One, I'm like, yo, these movies are long. Like these movies, the extended edition like goes beyond anything. So I had to break it down into chunks. But I must say, I'm really enjoying these Lord of the Rings movies. Like
And
I'm really enjoying them.
they're good. The books are so much better. I mean, I guess you could say that for anything,
Yeah.
but the books really are great.
So wait, are you telling me that you think Two Towers is better than Return of the King?
Absolutely.
Oh, I don't know if that's controversial. I feel like a lot of people might be
I,
a little salty about that.
I mean, Battle for Helm's Deep, it's just awesome.
Yeah, man. I will say like that might be the first time I've heard that. Everyone always raves about the Return of the King, and I'm not on Return of the King yet, so I can't say about it yet. Let me watch the extended edition, and then I'll have to let people know. But yeah,
And yeah, not that the Return of the King wasn't good, but favorite wise, yeah, I think Two Towers.
yeah. I mean, it
I
was good. The battles were yeah, the battle was really good. But I agree. I
um,
agree.
but yeah, no, I did want to also throw out there like Highlander. I don't know, I wouldn't call it like a guilty pleasure by any means, but like Highlander was such a cool fantasy series.
See now you're showing your age there because I'm
That
sure
does
a lot of people
dates me
ain't seen Highlander out there.
just a little bit. And the first movie was it was so cool. Never mind that Sean Connery plays a Spaniard, but does nothing to disguise his accent.
Yeah, that's it was a different time. Let's just put it like that. It was a different time.
There was and nobody questioned it either. Like, okay, yeah, he's a Spaniard, sure.
Why do you think we haven't seen any reboots of this movie?
Um, I don't know. I mean, maybe everybody's getting burned out on just rebooting everything. It did have a fairly like the movie run really did get pretty cheesy, and like the second Highlander film, everyone has to agree doesn't exist because it was terrible. But
Yeah.
then, and the rest of the movie just got cheesier towards the end. It had a long running TV show.
Hmm.
Um, but it's still it was fairly shallow. It didn't go super deep into its own mythology, but like there's something there that
Yeah.
I'd like to see it'd be cool to explore.
I mean I'll definitely say I've never seen Highlander. I know what it is just because like I feel like the cultural impact that it had over the years. Like I know what it is, but I've never seen it like sat down to watch it before.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, compared with like series today, like yeah, it does not go deep into its own mythology. It's just like yeah, no, last one standing lives forever. That's just how it works. Like
Yeah,
don't think about
just a
it.
fun time.
I don't want to say like the second movie tried to say they were aliens or something stupid, and then they retconned it in the third movie, and
Oof. They
it got goofy from there. And then like there can be only one, like the great tagline and like the whole like thing he's chasing after, except then you've got like a series and oh wait, there's more. It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
retcon on
I'll
top of
say
retcon, but
I would say I know. Yeah, it's like that's like one of the big things that it's known for is like there can be only one. So like that's where I know it from. But I've never seen it. Um, all right. I guess before we get off here, are there any other like fantasy series you just want to shout out? Like even though we've talked about some of our favorites, and favorites change all the time. So I mean, this isn't
yeah.
a be all end all list. But any other series you want to shout out?
So book-wise, the King Killer Chronicles, I really, really like. I think it's slated for now to be a main trilogy, and there's only two books out so far. The Name of the Wind and the Wise Man's Fear.
Hmm.
Um, but like just another like fantasy world with that has magic, that has its own rules and specific uses and um, cool series.
Yeah. I would. I mean, of course. I mean, you mentioned them already, like Game of Thrones, The Hobbit, like all those stuff is really good. Which I just got into Game of Thrones last year for the first time. And I know we talked about it, but yeah, I really enjoy Game of Thrones and House of Dragon and all that.
There was another
Um,
show, Shadow and Bone. What was it?
yeah.
I can't think of the name of
So
it.
yeah, you're right. Shadow and Bone. I watched season one with my wife. I almost dropped it. It was okay. Season two, I dropped it. To me, it was I didn't understand the power sets of some of the characters. Like it was kind of dumb in my opinion. So I ended up dropping it.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of same. Like I've tried reading the books too, and I get a couple books in, and just it kind of loses me a little bit. But it's
Hmm.
really popular, and I kind of want to stick with it just to see if maybe I it clicks with me. But
Yeah, yeah. The show for me just didn't stick with it. Are you? What about like the Percy Jackson series or anything like that? Oh, we didn't mention Harry Potter. Like,
I know. Well, it felt so obvious.
Basic.
One, yeah,
Yeah.
your basic Harry Potter fan, right?
Yeah, I will say so. I actually tried to actually last month. I started. Everybody at work was just raving about Harry Potter like they always do. So I want to start the books, and I started the books, and then I forget how much I do not care about Harry Potter. I got to the point where Ron and Harry first met, and then they get the house, they get to see what house they get to be on, and I was like, I do not like Harry Potter. Like, I like the movies, but I just don't care about it. So I ended up dropping a book.
I really enjoyed the book too. I guess I'm a basic witch. Um,
Nice, I see what you did
it's,
there.
uh, but yeah, no, I'm really enjoyed all that too. Those were good books. Yeah,
Well,
no, I could probably keep going on and on with you for every
yeah,
series that I've partially into or been into at some point.
yeah. So I mean, obviously, this won't be the first time we have a conversation off on air. I'll have to bring you back for sure, but I know we'll have many other conversations later. So I want to say thank you, Josh, for joining us on the podcast. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah. So I don't have a way to end this, so I just always end it by saying, "We out. See ya."